Hi there, Darth Geekula, aka Rich, aka Ugly Max Headroom, here with a quick Darth's Haul video. You can't see all my beard. And a little toy history lesson. You may have seen I did a video a little while ago about Hasbro's Power of the Force 2 line, which was the beginning of the modern Star Wars action figure line. They were kind of ugly. They were way too muscular. Looked like they were all on steroids. The sculpts were kind of a little too exaggerated, but not even on purpose. But it was the beginning of modern Star Wars toys. And of course, as you know, Hasbro got better and better and better. Started making really great figures, lots of articulation. Now they're taking the articulation away, but that doesn't matter. The point is, a lot of collectors got rid of those Power of the Force 2 figures as they bought better versions of those characters and bought them again and again and again. I recently became really nostalgic for the Power of the Force 2 figures just because they kind of got me back into collecting Star Wars, got me back into collecting. So I was able to reacquire the first wave of those Power of the Force 2 figures from the 90s. Similar to Power of the Force 2, the other thing I collect is superhero toys, especially DC. And during the 90s, there were a lot of Batman toys, which is awesome because I love Batman. But I also wanted the other characters. So in 1996, Kenner started making, I believe it was Kenner. I don't know if Hasbro bought them yet or not. A line. It was still under the Batman banner. It was Batman Total Justice. But it had not all the characters, but it wasn't just Batman. It was Superman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, etc., etc. So I, of course, was happy to buy this because I wasn't able to collect a line of DC heroes like that since Superpowers, and before that, Mego. And then after that, it was mainly Batman, a Batman line, a Superman line. So I was a big fan of this line. However, like Power of the Force 2, even by superhero standards, they were kind of really, really muscular and steroided. And the articulation was lacking, and eventually we'd get better DC figures. And like Power of the Force 2, as I was getting better versions of these figures, I sold them off. Also like Power of the Force 2, come 2015, and I became nostalgic for them. Because again, they were another line that got me back into collecting toys as an adult. Technically an adult. We all know that's not really true. So I've been trying to reacquire that first wave of Total Justice figures. DC Total Justice, Batman Total Justice, whatever you want to call it. And I have finally been able to complete that. So, without even more ado, let's take a look at them. First off, Superman. These came out in the 90s, and they're very much inspired by Grant Morrison's run on JLA and all the looks that the heroes had in the 90s. I thought this was a great figure back then. Now he kind of looks like a really muscular midget. He has that long hair look from the 90s. It's still Superman, and I still like it. But yeah, has not aged well. Articulation limited. It's, your basic 5 points. The cape is removable, oddly enough. You see the yellow S on the back, which is nice detail. So there's Superman. Kind of ugly. Hasn't aged really well. Speaking of hasn't aged really well, the Flash. This is the Wally West version of the Flash. Got kind of a gigantic chin. Also very ripped. 5 points of articulation. I was still happy to get him back in 1996. How about Aquaman, who looks a little skinny. This is obviously the hook hand Aquaman. There he is. Hard to stand because his legs are kind of in a weird position. But there he is, hook hand Aquaman. Let's go with this guy next. Green Lantern, the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern at the time. There he is, looking very angry. These all came with a bunch of accessories, so don't really need those. Here is Robin. His cape is not sticking on. It's a cool Tim Drake Robin. His cape is it goes on better than that. There we go. There's Tim Drake Robin. He was the last one I happened to find at a thrift store. Let's go with Batman. Okay, so Batman. Actually, probably the best sculpt in the line, maybe, for the heroes. This is a version of his outfit that he wore shortly after he came back after having his back broke by Bane, where he didn't sort of have the underwear or the trunks under it, but it was a classic Batman suit otherwise. However, for whatever reason, Kenner went with these kind of Batwing designs, which is really what keeps this from being a really great Batman figure. These are movable, I guess. Yeah, they go down. I don't know. Not a fan of this. When I originally had this figure, I actually had a cape that he wore from another Batman figure, which I wish I had. Otherwise, I really do like this figure. It's only 5 points of articulation. Fiddle with that. There we go. Only 5 points of articulation. I like the pose. He's kind of in a cool kung fu pose. But yeah, the cape. I don't know why they won't fill his wings. Very disappointing. And finally, there's one villain in the wave, Darkseid. The Darkseid actually is pretty good, except for his giant hook hand. I don't know. That's terrible. It doesn't come off. All the other kind of crazy accessories were removable on the figures, but not Darkseid. But he can reach up real high and get things off the top shelf. So that was it. DC Total Justice. Yes, they are a little too muscular, even for superheroes. But if you're a DC collector and you were starved for DC action figures, they were kind of a godsend. First time they've ever been described as a godsend. There were a couple more waves under Total Justice. I think the next wave was Hawkman and Huntress. Definitely Hawkman. There was a Hawkman that came out. Huntress. There was also a Black Lightning and a Green Arrow. Connor Hawk Green Arrow, who was Green Arrow through a lot of the 90s. And there were the other villains were Sparrow and Parallax. Hal Jordan when he went bad. Then they kind of rebranded it, and it became a KB Toys exclusive. Same style, some of the same molds, but they made a Martian Manhunter and Plastic Man and Wonder Woman, which I wish they had gotten to in this line. They made some Young Justice figures, Superboy, all those guys. And a few more villains, I think. They made a Batman with a regular cape, same sculpt. Like I said, that was a KB Toys exclusive. Sadly, I had those, and sadly, I also got rid of those. Those are a little hard to find. The first wave, though, which is a pretty good wave, you get most of the main figures minus Wonder Woman, which is a shame. There wasn't a Wonder Woman until later. But anyway, like I said, I'm happy with that first wave. If I can find some of the other ones, I would like to have Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, and maybe the rest that were from the actual Total Justice line before they rebranded it JLA. But yeah, so there's my ugly 90s toy haul for the week. This is exciting. I may have said this before. My Walmart has a space cleared for the new Force Awakens toys. They have the hooks all up to put the figures on. I was actually got up at 7 a.m. today to go to Walmart before work just to see if they got put out early. To be honest, I'm not expecting them to be out early. I'll be happy if my lousy Walmart actually has them out on the 4th like they're supposed to be. Anyway, hopefully I will have some The Force Awakens Star Wars toys to show you in the next week or two. Anyway, guys, that's it. Total Justice figures, you can find them pretty cheap because they are kind of cheap, but I like them. All right, guys. See ya.